It's time to address the elephant in the upside down, one of the most overlooked yet essential elements in Stranger Things Season 5. Every era of this show has its chaos, its monsters, and its mythology. But there's one constant force that always helps the kids and the audience make sense of it all. I'm talking about the GOAT himself, Mr. Clarke. Not every season features him, but whenever he shows up, it's game-changing. Every time the kids are desperate to understand the supernatural madness tearing Hawkins apart, they turn to their science teacher. And with just logic, metaphors, and a whiteboard, Mr. Clarke breaks the most mind-bending ideas down into something even we can follow. This man is basically Hawkins' human encyclopedia, the kids' smartest and most reliable ally. Chapter 1. Lessons from the Upside Down. Let's rewind the timeline. In Season 1, Clarke gives us the now iconic flea on the tightrope analogy, explaining the upside down in a way that defines the entire show. Then, in Season 2, he references Phineas Gage to explain Will's transformation under the Mind Flayer's control, connecting physical trauma and personality shifts with terrifying precision. He even teaches about fear and defense mechanisms, which sparks Mike's realization that something inside Will isn't right. By Season 3, Clarke is still out here carrying the intellectual load, explaining electromagnetism to Joyce when her fridge magnets start acting up. His lecture literally kickstarts her investigation into the secret Russian experiment underneath Hawkins Mall. And then came Season 4, the only season without him. And surprise, surprise, the kids actually lose their battle against Vecna. Coincidence? Absolutely not. Chapter 2. The Return of the Wormhole. Now in Season 5, the prodigal teacher returns. This time, Clarke's focus? Wormholes. A wormhole isn't just another gate. It's a special kind of passageway. It allows matter to jump between dimensions without ever crossing the space in between. And if you've caught the literary breadcrumbs, this season's been heavily inspired by A Wrinkle in Time. Holly's seen reading it, the same book that gave us Mr. What's-It and even influenced Cameots, the memory prison inside Henry's mind. Since Holly isn't hooked on D&D yet, she uses this story as her metaphor to grasp the impossible. In the book, Mr. What's-It explains a fold in space-time using a fabric analogy. One insect traveling from point A to point B across the cloth, and another skipping instantly through a wrinkle. Those 2 points could represent anything, different dimensions, or even different times. Maybe Dimension X to Hawkins, maybe 1955, Henry Creel, to 1987 Hawkins. Either way, Holly, or possibly even Mr. Clarke, might be the one to explain the wormhole through this analogy. Chapter 3. Power, Time, and the Gate. So here's the big theory. If Vecna and the Mind Flayer can harness the energy of the gifted children they've taken, they can fold space and time itself, creating a wormhole that connects dimensions or even rewinds the timeline. That could unlock time travel within Stranger Things. Clarke once told us in Season 1 that interdimensional travel is impossible for humans because it demands an impossible amount of energy. But that was before we met Eleven, Henry Creel, and Will, all powered by the Mind Flayer's influence. They're no longer mere humans. Now, with their collective power, interdimensional travel isn't fantasy anymore. It's a looming threat. Chapter 4. The Children of the Hive. Vecna's been gathering children for a reason. In the finale, he literally monologues that they're to be used as vessels, just like Will was in Season 2. Back then, Will coughed up a slug after being filled with Mind Flayer gunk through the vines that linked him to the hive mind. And now, Vecna is repeating that process, infecting kids like Holly and others he's captured. Once connected to the hive mind, they become controllable. In the first Shadow stage play, we learn that Henry Creel's powers, and everyone else's, originate from the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer lets Henry use them while secretly feeding on his body as a host. Now, Will can do the same, tapping into the hive mind connection, but at the risk of losing control. The Duffer brothers confirmed this themselves. Every time Will uses those powers, he risks being reactivated by Vecna and enslaved again. With 12 children connected as vessels, Vecna can channel their combined power to create the ultimate bridge, a wormhole large enough to bring the Mind Flayer into our world. And that, right there, is how Hawkins could fall. Chapter 5. The Monster Beyond the Gate. This aligns with all the clues. Back to the Future references, Henry's obsession with time, the grandfather clock, the 12 children symbolizing the 12 hours on a clock face. Even the behind-the-scenes table read for Episode 4. The sorcerer describes Will seeing the kids trapped inside something that looks like the ribcage of a monster, a structure that mirrors an hourglass, or maybe a wormhole. The Duffer brothers have teased a new creature for Season 5, one seen briefly in Nancy's vision. It's enormous, gaping-mouthed, surrounded by countless others. Concept art and game leaks suggest it's the next evolutionary step of the Mind Flayer's form, the ultimate monster. Just like when the Mind Flayer appeared to Henry in 1979, it could adapt its shape again when crossing over into Hawkins. Maybe the ritual fails halfway, just enough to send Mind Flayer particles into our world, forming another meat beast to devastate the town. Meanwhile, Holly, dubbed the Clarke by Mike, might use her Dimension Door powers in Episode 6, Escape from Camiot. We even see behind-the-scenes shots of her and Max in Camzots, staring through a mirror, falling through dimensional space. That episode's climax could bring Max fully back. Then comes Episode 7, The Bridge, where the group, possibly taught by Erica, Dustin, or Clarke himself, finally understands the mechanics of wormholes. LEGO even spoiled a Volume 2 set, the radio station scene with Hopper and Joyce, where wormhole equations are scrawled on the glass window. That's where they'll break it all down. Vecna and the Mind Flayers plan to rip reality open. Chapter 6. Henry versus the Mind Flayer. While the Mind Flayer wants to invade, where Henry Creel might want to escape, because right now, Vecna is basically the Mind Flayer wearing Henry's body. In the first Shadow Stage play, Henry is trapped in his own mind, fighting back against the Mind Flayer's control. Each time Henry kills, he absorbs life energy, growing stronger. But the Mind Flayer feeds too. It pushes him to kill again and again, animals, humans, anyone, until it completely dominates him. Dr. Brenner only makes things worse, taunting Henry, pushing him deeper into the darkness. But there's a chance. If Eleven or Max could reach into Henry's mind, find what's left of him, they might turn him. And the only weapon that can beat fear, the Mind Flayer's core fuel, is love. And the only person Henry ever loved? Patty Newby, Bob's sister. She survived his attack, but was left crippled. If she's still alive, maybe she's the one who can reach what's left of Henry and give him the strength to fight back. Chapter 7. The 12 and the Timeline. But the clock is ticking. Once the Mind Flayer fully bonds with the 12 children, it can use them to open its own bridge, the ultimate wormhole to Hawkins. That's why it hunted Eleven for years. She was supposed to be the key, but after failing again and again, maybe it's done waiting. Maybe it's building its own power source now. Still, if Henry somehow regains control, he could use that same wormhole to travel back in time and stop everything before it begins. Specifically, to his 8th birthday, March 22nd, 1955, the day he first encountered the Mind Flayer particles, the same day he went missing. And here's the mind blower. That date, March 22nd, is Will Byers' birthday. That's no coincidence. Even the educational materials for the first Shadow confirm it. Henry's disappearance happened on Will's exact birth date. And the play that Joyce and Henry perform later? It's set on November 6th, the day Will goes missing. The parallels between Will and Henry are deliberate, both linked by the same pattern of trauma, possession, and isolation. Chapter 8. The Duality of Will and Henry. Will is everything Henry could have been if he'd been loved. Henry grew up neglected and alienated. Enrolled in high school at 12, bullied, hated, and left alone. His only connection was with Patty, the one person who saw him for who he was. But when the Mind Flayer took him, love wasn't enough to save him. Will, on the other hand, had what Henry never did: family, friends, love, and connection. That's why he survived his possession where Henry didn't. Will is Henry's mirror, the reflection of what he could have been in a world without darkness. Final chapter, the endgame of Hawkins. Now, as Season 5 leans into wormholes and time travel, the stakes have never been higher. The Duffer brothers have openly said they're nervous about how to end it, and for good reason. They're playing with cosmic-scale ideas now. But one thing's certain, bringing Mr. Clarke back was the smartest move they could have made. Whether he's the one to break down the science or Dustin and Erica take the reins, it all comes full circle. Because if Hawkins is going down, it'll be through the same portal of knowledge that started it all. A lesson, a metaphor, and a science teacher who made the impossible make sense. And as we gear up for Escape from Camzots, The Bridge, and The Right Side Up, the volume's final stand, it feels like everything's coming together. The Mind Flayer might finally break through. the past might collide with the present, and love might be the only thing left to stop it. Tell me your theories in the comments. I'll be diving deep again soon. Stay tuned, because this story's just getting started. Peace.